Hey there, guys, and welcome back to another Ask Exterminator video, episode 2 here. It's Tuesday of this week, and last episode, you guys seemed to like quite a bit. We got some decent amount of questions in the comments, so I'm going to go ahead and go through those in this video. And if you have questions for me for next week, do leave them in the comments of this video. Not in the comments of the first video, because that's what I'm covering now. Make sure you leave them in this video. And like I've said before, it can be Factorio related, it can be just general game related. It doesn't even have to be gaming related at all. It can be something completely unrelated to gaming. Questions you have, I'd be happy to answer as long as they're appropriate for me to answer on YouTube. But in the background is just some more gameplay of our science battle against Colonel Will. But let's go ahead and get started here with questions. The first one here, I'm going to try to pronounce names. I apologize ahead of time, guys, very much. I'm 100% going to totally mess up some people's names. So from Alejandro Gonzalez, we have a question. Have you tried Satisfactory? If yes, what's your opinion on it? Yes, I have tried Satisfactory. In fact, there are several playlists on my channel of me playing Satisfactory. Some multiplayer, some single player. So I've played quite a bit of it. And I like it. It's a good game. I consider it very similar to Factorio, and the general just the general theme of it, kind of just the way it is played, I guess, in a way. I mean, obviously it's different in the fact that it's first person, it's 3D, there's some, different recipes and stuff, but the whole general overarching theme of the game I find to be very similar to Factorio. And I think it does some things better than Factorio. I think it does things definitely worse as well. I think it's different enough, so I enjoy it. My main complaints with it and why I didn't play it more is I found it very tedious and very tiresome to build anything on a even remotely large scale. Because unlike Factorio, at least when I played, I know they've done a ton of updates. I think a lot of this has probably been improved upon, but when I played Satisfactory, they didn't have blueprints. There were nothing like robots or anything like that. So it was very, very tedious to try to build like big factories and big layouts because you had to do it literally all by hand, one at a time. It'd be like trying to build a mega base in Factorio the same way you build your starter base, like completely by hand. So I think some of that has been improved upon. I feel like they do have blueprints now, I remember someone saying. So overall, I think it's a good game. If you play Factorio and you keep thinking to yourself, wow, I'd really like a first-person 3D version of this, Satisfactory is definitely the way to go. It is a good game. So next question from Chad, who is a very long-time member and supporter of the channel, says, what advice would you give to a starting new content creator on YouTube? What lessons about content creation did you wish you had learned sooner? Well, I think I still have a lot to learn. I am obviously by absolutely no means, a top tier content creator in the regards of just pure size. I think advice that I would give to a new content creator is I would give several pieces of advice. First one would be to just try to be yourself and enjoy what you're doing. Now, I know there are content creators who put on these big personalities. Some of them actually have big personalities, so I guess they're acting themselves. But some people are definitely just putting on a show, and that's fine. Like, if you're just an entertainer by nature and that's just what you're good at, then and you enjoy that, then go for it. But like me, I'm not. I can't. I can't put on. I can't like go into a whole new personality just for my YouTube videos. And some people can. Some people are really good at it, and it makes really entertaining content. I can't do that. So instead of trying to do that, just because I know I can't do that, because I've seen people who, quite honestly, can't do it or do it very poorly, and they just try too hard to do that to mimic other YouTubers. So the advice I would give would be to just do what works for you. If that does work for you, great. If you're like me and it doesn't, then just be yourself and just like I literally make all my videos and all my commentary as if I were just talking to one of my friends. Like because that's just the best way I can present stuff to you guys, for me. So that's one piece of advice. Again, I think while I would say not mimic other YouTubers, I think it is important to study other content creators' methods and what succeeds for them and fails for them, at least in the same genre of which you may be trying to go. So I will be quite honest. I definitely do. Not like I don't watch like full playthroughs because I just don't have time for that. But I do look at like Neolaus and Catherine of Sky, who are my main competitors, I guess you could say. They're also they're also comrades, friends. I have no problem with them whatsoever, but they're also competitors just by the nature of it. Um, and and I look at their content and I see what are they doing, what's working really well for them, what maybe just isn't panning out, and that can help me improve my content. So that's something else I'd recommend. I guess one other piece of advice in regards to that is honestly, now some people, this may be controversial, but I would say don't be afraid to see what someone else is doing. Don't be afraid to copy it and put your own twist on it. Now, I'm not saying like straight up, like absolutely don't just download their content and upload it. I've had that happen before where someone has literally just downloaded my videos and uploaded them on their own channel. I'm not saying, copy it verbatim, but like Neolaus does fantastic content, and he does some really good like tutorial workshop videos, and in a regard, I try to take that as inspiration. I guess maybe taking things as inspiration is a better way to say it than just copy it, because I wouldn't say just flat out copy, but I've had people criticize before, where they're just like, you're just copying this person or copying this thing, and it's like, that's a form of flattery. I realize that, like, someone else is doing a really good job, and I would like to put my own little twists on it and take what I see is succeeding for them and try to make it succeed for me as well. Like that happens in the real world too. I don't really see an issue for it. That's why we have like multiple companies for pretty much everything. That's why we don't just have one shoe company or one clothing brand. So yeah, that's my answer. And basically, what lessons about content creation did you wish you had learned sooner? Basically, all that I just said. I I wish I had learned to edit really well, and I don't. There's no sooner because I still don't know how to edit very well, at all. I really do wish I had learned how to edit before even getting into this. It would help a lot. Right now, the task of figuring out how to do good editing is very daunting to me. I do have a member of my community, Aodin, who makes most of my thumbnails now, who has offered to help with editing and has done a bit of editing, so that's fantastic. But just for myself, I wish I could do it too. So we go. I hope that answered the question. Also says version 15 sim was also my favorite playthrough. That was something I mentioned in previous video, which yes, I agree. That was my favorite playthrough for sure. Andrew Kaiser says, where do you hail from? Don't say specifically, but just a general idea of where you live, or I guess where you are from. I can tell you maybe more specifically than you think. I am from and live in Colorado. That's as specific as I'm going to get. But that's, I mention that on my stream all the time. I don't think that's giving too much away. So yeah, I'm from Colorado. I live multiple places throughout Colorado. And I currently reside in Colorado. So, obviously if you're in the UK, that may not mean a lot from you, or well, not just the UK. If you're anywhere outside the US, you may know what Colorado is or where it is, but obviously not as, impactful as if you're from the US. But yeah, so I absolutely love it here. It's very expensive, unfortunately. I bring that up just because I was going to say, I don't know that I would ever consider leaving. The only reason I really would consider leaving is because it's very expensive. But other than that, I very much like it here. I love it here a lot. So, and Crash Neth asks, now that Rocket League is free to play, would you get more into it again? And I mentioned Rocket League in my last video. It's probably where this is coming up from. Actually, when I played it before, like I mentioned in my last Ask Xterminator video, it was free. And I just stopped playing it because The friend I was playing it with, just that they didn't really want to play it anymore, and I didn't really want to play alone. And I didn't really know anyone else who played it, and I also wasn't really a huge fan of some things that the game company was doing. So I stopped playing. But I mean, I think just as a game and game design, I think it's an excellent game, and it's really cool that it's free. Let's see. So there's just a bunch of comments here that aren't necessarily questions, but really great stuff. So from Refresh, they ask, what are your thoughts on different types of bases, bot, rail, bus, etc.? What do you prefer? Um, I like all of them for different stages of the game. It would be my best answer. So obviously early game, you're not really going to have bots or rails. So a bus is fine. And I usually like to take a bus into mid game to even early late game. After that, I much prefer robots and trains. I really do not like building very large belt bases. I personally find it very annoying, very tedious, and that's my personal opinion. Like, there's a challenge to it. I'm not that like there is definitely a challenge to it, and I know a lot of people enjoy that, and that's awesome. Like, I can totally understand that. I've built a belt mega base before. I did a whole series on it, and I actually watched part of that series recently, a few videos. I was like looking for something in the series or something, and I thought to myself, this was very recently, like a week ago, and I thought to myself, did I really build this? How the heck did I actually manage to build this? Because thinking on it now, the idea of building that large of a base with belts is just drives me crazy. So I would definitely prefer just bots and rails for like late game builds and like mega basing for mid game, even early late game. I'm fine with a bus. I think it's a good way. Transitioning to trains, I like to transition to trains usually around purple science, unless it's a desperate need and I have to do it before that. Just usually because you get rails with purple science anyway, being made at least. So that's basically the best answer I think I can give that. I love bots. I love bot builds, um, and I love rails and trains as much, even though they kill me and I'm terrified of them. So yeah. And Wesley, I'm just gonna say Wesley. I'm not gonna attempt to pronounce your last name. I apologize. Asks, what is the most satisfying map factory you ever played on? So I'm gonna take this question as asking what I've actually like played and then like done a playthrough on. I've obviously been in some insane maps through my base tour series, and I've been on a few of the developers, a few maps of the developer V Backlash, which are fantastic. Obviously, I didn't really play on them; I just visited them. So the most satisfying map I ever played on is probably just going to come back to the 015 simulation map. I absolutely loved that playthrough. I loved that map. It was a gigantic map at the time. Just crazy builds. We were doing so much experimenting, like just crazy experiments with like rails and like signals to get everything working. It was so satisfying to get, to accomplish these things and get, get these crazy rail systems finally working and these like signaling almost like stoplights working, getting builds built. Definitely probably that one. A very close second would be my 4,000 science per minute sending supporters to space series I did quite a long time ago. It was a very frustrating map, I will be honest with you, but getting the base working, like getting the mega base turned on and watching it work, was probably the most satisfying feeling I've ever had in Factorio. It was a very close second in terms of the most satisfying map, or almost a tie, really, thinking back on it. But those would probably be my top two for sure. And David asks, more, do the jokes about you eating and or getting hit by trains, etc., get old? Do they frustrate you? No, not really. I don't. I find them really funny. Those are two jokes I can very much just laugh at myself about and join in on the jokes about. They really don't frustrate me unless they're just flat out like just extremely rude, which they never really have been. Or, you know, I find them funny. The train stuff I find hilarious because, I mean, I experienced it and it's just really funny, especially looking back on it. The food stuff is also pretty funny, remembering back and stuff. I think, and it's just kind of running jokes in my community, which I think is really cool. So, they really don't bother me at all. Let's see. Will you ever do a Bob's Angels Let's Play again? Uh, I don't really, never say never, but I'm gonna say like 99.5% chance not. I did one. It lasted about 14 episodes, I think, and I was luckily saved by a Factorio update coming out, which made me end it so I could go do something else. And yeah, I don't plan to. I do not like those mods. I could go into I could make a whole video going into why I don't like them. I don't think they're bad. I don't necessarily think they're bad mods. Like huge props to to Angel and bobbing about for making those mods. I mean, obviously I can't make any mods, so they're doing something very impressive to me. But playing them, I don't like them at all. I really don't. So I just, so many, like, people ask me all the time. It's really funny. This is a little bit of a tangent, but it's really funny. People ask me all the time, like literally probably like every 2 weeks, I get at least one or two people coming into my stream, and sometimes it's the same person. Sometimes it's different people, and on videos, asking if I'm gonna play Bob's or Angels, and like I don't understand. Like, do people just want to see me like be really unhappy playing? I don't know. I've made it very clear before that I do not like the mods. Like, truly, there's a difference for me between being a challenge and actually disliking the time I'm having in the game. And that's what that would be. Like, if I did a series on Bob's Angels, I would not be having fun. I would maybe be faking it for a while, but I bet you within the first 10 episodes or less, like, I would be having a really bad time. Like, it would not be fun for me to play. So really probably never going to do it, but never say never. I don't know. It could happen. Highly unlikely. From Hernan. X, did you play games like Factorio? Can you recommend one? Satisfactory, as mentioned earlier, would be one. I know that... what else? I mean, I don't know. I mean, your definition of like Factorio can vary widely. I would say... what's the game called? I'm gonna... Is that what's the game called? Big Pharma game is kind of, I don't even know if that's still updated. What is it called? Something.io. Not Slith. There's a new game. Factory.io. Is it Factory.io? I think so. I don't know. No, I don't remember the name. There's a game that's like basically based on Factorio that's like, I think, browser based. Shoot, I forget the name. But yeah, there's those. There's a few others like Industrial Revolution, I think is what the game's called. I'm just searching it right now. No. Rise of Industry? Yeah, Rise of Industry. Rise of Industry, I think, is fairly similar, so there's some games for you. If I were to recommend one, it'd be Satisfactory. That's basically the closest you're going to get, in my opinion. And then Remco says, so far, I love the game, and I am somebody who does a lot of experimenting, like 1, exploring the map before building so radar has less tiles to discover, 2, using daisy chaining to get goods from multiple branches to one or more central points, or 3, using trains and supply chains spread out between patches instead of a main bus. My question is, do you also do a lot of experimenting or follow the same steps every time? I would say in general, I probably follow the same steps every time. I do experiment, like, I would say my level of experimenting is the fact that I basically never import blueprints except for my rails. So like every time I build a build, I guess in some ways experimenting, because I'm not copying a picture, I'm not importing a blueprint. I am literally just making it on spot in that moment and seeing what works. Usually they end up very similar just because I've played the game so much that it just like it's almost muscle memory. You know, my science builds, they usually are just mostly similar because that's I built them 200 times. So um, but yeah, I don't like I like to experiment. I used to experiment a lot more. I feel like now I just, I built mega bases. I've been part of mega bases so many times, and mega bases, in my opinion, is where a lot of experimenting comes in, at least for me personally. So I haven't really had a reason, I guess, to do a lot of experimenting. But I do some every game, especially with like my mall designs, my hub designs. That usually those are quite different every time. uh, And let's see. Miles asks, "What's the largest blueprint you use on a regular basis?" Well, tying into what I just said, I almost never use blueprints from other saves, but my rails, because I do use the same rail design almost every single game, and the blueprints I guess are fairly big. But I don't really use like build blueprints throughout multiple saves. I usually just build them in once like in the game, and then I just copy paste from what's in that save for more builds in that save, if that makes sense. So that's not I don't know. I'm trying to think. I mean, I have quite a few blueprints on my website that are like from my Sending Support to Space Megabase, which if I were to use blueprints, I would be using those, and some of them are massive. So maybe that's a better answer for you. Um, Hopefully that helps. Martin asks, "Are you gonna play Nappa's Jagged or Why or Why Not?" I don't know what that is, so no. Uh, is that a mod, a scenario? It sounds familiar. Let me see what this is. Or it's a mod. It looks like. No, or spawn inputs or area. No, I'm not playing that. Read like the first two sentences, and no, I'm not playing that because it sounds like I would have a really, really bad time. I don't think I would enjoy myself, to be honest. Um, Let me see. Chaos. Chaos asks, "What's the simplest or most effective way you can control the number of barrels produced to avoid producing them and clogging up a liquid production chain? Circuit conditions or fancy positioning? Both. This could apply to any other production chain that has a reusable ingredient like modded content too." So this is almost on the verge of too intricate of a question for me to answer in this type of video. But I said it's on the verge. It's not fully. So I would say circuit condition, to be quite honest. So like, for example, you could wire an inserter to a chest that is like limited on the amount of barrels it inputs or the amount of barrels it outputs. And you could just do it, wire it to the chest, or if you want to get really fancy, you could wire the inserter to a fluid tank that has the fluid in it that you're barreling, and then have the inserter only work if a fluid gets above or below a certain amount, depending on what exactly you're trying to achieve. But I would say controlling number of barrels. Oh well, so your question is number of barrels produced. I mean, you can do the same thing. You could just literally. I've never done this, but I suppose you could wire up to a tank and have your barrels produced based on that. But usually, for barrels produced, I typically I try to base it on a network condition. That can be a little iffy sometimes. You can end up with some cases where that's a problem. That's kind of tough. To be honest, I haven't messed with barreled liquids in a very long time. I would say, yeah, I would say like you could just do a set amount. Or you could base it. I would say basing on network conditions is probably your best bet. You could do circuit conditions as well if you want. That would be a little more complicated, I think. Maybe a bit more reliable though. Barrels are a bit annoying to limit the production of in some cases, so I definitely feel your pain there. Simon asks, do you prefer playing with mods or no mods? Uh, Both. I don't really have a preference. It depends on the playthrough I'm doing, and what mods are being used, I suppose. So, like, I just played with Factorio 2, and I had a really good time. Uh, Sometimes I enjoy vanilla. Like, I am actually really, really enjoying the science battles against Colonel Will, and that's obviously vanilla aside from the science mod, which doesn't like change any builds or recipes or anything. Basically, just keeps track of your science consumption and gives you points for it. But so like that, I really enjoy that, and that's vanilla. Like just a normal vanilla humdrum playthrough, I would maybe prefer modded. So it kind of depends. I'm very particular with the mods I like. Like for example, Factorio 2. I didn't play Factorio 1, but Factorio 2 is probably the only overhaul mod I actually enjoy, and maybe would consider playing again at some point. I played Space Exploration. I think it's a really fantastic mod. For me, it was a little bit much. Like the late game was just a little too drawn out in my opinion, for my personal preference. So that's I don't know. I hope that answers your question. I think it just depends on the mods and on the particular playthrough. Uh, you know, like I said, it's just a humdrum, just la-di-da to a rocket vanilla playthrough compared to like playing Factorio Extended or Factorio 2. I would probably prefer the modded option. But if you're like saying like science battles compared to playing like Factorio 2, I would definitely choose science battles. So I guess I hope that answers your question. I think that's it. I'm trying to find. I think that's all the questions because they're mixed in with some non-questions, but I believe that does it, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the questions and the answers. Again, any questions you have for me, leave them in the comments of this video, and I will answer them next week in that video on Tuesday. And yeah, anything Factorio related, game related, non-related to either of those things, whatever it may be, I'd be happy to answer it as long as it's appropriate for YouTube. Anyway, take care, guys. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. If you did enjoy, feel free to leave a like. It is much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, subscribing as well will help you keep up with all the new content I am putting out. And until next time, I look forward to seeing you all, and do take care.